Hello everyone, in this video I'd like to talk about Lin. With version 2.0 coming up in global, at this time I think it's very important for people to realize how good of a character she is. She's a universal off-field DPS, and also a damage buffer for every single element in this team. To start with, I'd like to introduce her element, which is translated as Aberration on TOF index. I think it can also be interpreted as altered energy, but in this video I'm just gonna call it aberration. Aberration is a unique element that automatically scales with your highest element. Like for example, in this case, my fire attack is the highest among my 4 fundamental elements. I have 25k fire attack, and you can see my aberration automatically scaled with fire attack. Now, it is a little bit higher because on my gear, it does actually have a aberration substats, and that's why you can see my aberration attack is exactly 191 above my fire attack. Now, if I swap to say Volt gear, and you can see now my Volt is the highest attack. You can see my aberration now automatically scales with Volt. Again, it is higher than Volt because I do have a aberration reactor that boosts your aberration attack. So one thing I like to point out here is, while aberration attack scaled with other element attack, other elemental damage buff will not buff aberration. So what I mean, so let's take an example of Ruby's chip. So Ruby's 2-piece chip says it increase fire attack, so this will benefit Lin's weapon because if you increase fire attack, since aberration attack automatically scales with fire if fire is your highest attack, so this will be able to benefit Lin. However, the 4-piece bonus gives you fire damage percent boost. Now this fire damage percent boost will not benefit Lin because aberration is a different element. Now what will boost aberration damage percent is if your chip says, it just boosts damage percent rather than saying a specific element, right? So one example will be Samir's chip, because Samir's chip, it just says your damage increase. So this damage, it doesn't matter what element it is a universal damage percent buff. So this damage percent buff will be able to benefit Lin. So just want to throw that out because there were people who are confused with that. And what's good about Aberration is that currently in this game, there's not a single mob or dungeon or floor where the mob is immune or resistant to this element. And there are many contents where you do see resistance or even immunity. One place is the sequential Phantasm, which I believe was just released in global, right? You have 3 chambers here. Like for example, this chamber, you can only deal physical and lightning. It might be different in global, but in CN, this one you can only do physical and lightning. This one you can only do fire. This one you can only do ice. But then aberration element works in every single chamber. Let's say you also have joint operation. Like for example, this one has all the mobs have like 65% physical and ice resistance, but it will not affect aberration. And there's also frontier clash. Let's see. So you can see the hard frontier clash in this week. The mob is 65% resistant to ice, but this will not affect aberration. Okay, let's now continue to her skill set. As I said, Lin is a off-field DPS, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about her normal attack because really you won't be using it a lot other than trying to stack your 2-piece bonus which I will be talking about her chips later. But I do want to mention her dodge passive. Uh, it is a great passive because if you are CC'd while using Lin's fan, it will automatically get rid of the CC, but then there's like a 20-second cooldown. Nevertheless, like it is a great passive because oftentimes, let's say you get stunned or you get frozen, it is very dangerous. You could potentially get one shot. So Lin is able to get rid of that CC and let you quickly out of that uh, status. So it is very helpful. Now, Lin's weapon skill is her. It's what makes her insane, or like a universal damage buffer off field DPS. So basically, the skill. When you use the skill, you will deploy a field that lasts 15 seconds. Now, within this field, right? Every 0.8 second, you will spawn a flower. Uh, that flower will explode after 1 to 3 seconds. Now this is like random, so it can take the flower 1 to 3 seconds to explode, and dealing 60% weapon, sorry, 60% attack, AOE, right? AOE damage. So this is what makes Lin a good off-field DPS. Now, if I just put down the field, right, my character is idle. I'm not like doing anything, and you can see, right, it's just there doing damage. Like I don't even need to do anything, as long as you have the field deployed. So this is where Lin's insane off-field DPS comes from, right? There's not a single weapon in this game that can do this much damage this easily while you are off-field. So that's one point about Lin. She deals insane off-field damage. And remember, that element automatically scales with your highest attack element. So like you don't need to worry about, oh, because it's a different element, then because your gear usually you want your gear scales to that single element. So let's say if Lin is like a different element, like say ice, and then I'm playing fire team, then you will have high fire attack, but then you will have like low ice attack. But because Lin is aberration, it automatically scaled with fire, so you don't have to worry about your uh, elemental attack being too low. So that's her off-field DPS potential. Additionally, within that field, you just deal more damage, right? You deal 10% more damage within that field. You also get 20% increased jumping ability. It also costs like 50% less stamina. So this can be great for a weapon like Samir, because you're just doing the mid-air spinning attack. So that could be helpful, but it's nice to have. But it's like not that important or significant. Now, this is another passive, a life-saving passive, where if you're within this field, when the system detects there's an income damage, your character is gonna automatically teleport away from the enemy. Now, this could screw you up sometimes because the way the system works, sometimes it teleports you away. Like most of the time, it teleports you away from the mob, but then sometimes it teleports you into the boss. And this could really screw you up sometimes. But like I would say, 90% of the time, this is a great passive to let you avoid taking damage, especially in Bygone. Like if you're over floor 500, you can easily get like two shots, if not one shotted. So this can be helpful, but not always. Additionally, if the mob's HP is lower than 20%, then you deal 50% more damage, but only when you use the fan. If you use other weapon, it will not work. So this is just a little nice feature to have. So to kind of quickly deal with low HP mobs. Now, this wall of text right here is what makes Lin a universal buffer for every single element. Now, she has a passive called Weapon Mastery. Basically, if you have two weapons of the same element equipped, then it's gonna change how her field buff your team. So you can see I currently run the fire team. I have two fire weapons equipped. Then if you use her field, it's gonna change to a fire field. Just let me see. So if I use the field, you can see the field turns to a fire field. So what does it do for the fire team? Is it increased the burning? Excuse me. It increased the burning duration for your fire team, and then like the current fire team kind of centers around burning with Ruby. So if your burning lasts for longer, then when you detonate the burning, it does more damage. And also it does increase damage against targets with shield, so that's good to have, but not significant. The main point when triggering fire field is that 4-second increased burning duration. Now, if you for the Volt team, this is a little bit controversial because Volt team has the most insane buff. Within that field, every time you use a dodge attack, 65% of the chance that you will not consume any stamina. In addition, your dodge attack does 35% increased damage. Now, the Volt team centers around, at least in CN, it centers around dodge attack because the Volt weapon Baiyue she has insane dodge attack multiplier, and especially Tianlang, he has a passive where if you lose HP, right, you do more attack, and also you also do more, specifically you do more dodge attack. So Lin just came here and say, hey, I will just make you pretty much like dodge attack infinitely because you have like 65% of the chance not consume any stamina. Now, this text right here says if you trigger Volt Resonance, you will do 30% additional Volt damage. Now, this is like the most brain dead 30% Volt damage boost. However, it requires you to trigger Volt Resonance. So what that means is you will only work when you have Nemesis. This is kind of the dev try to because Nemesis is a 1.0 character, so compared to 2.0 character, she is a little bit lackluster. So the dev tries to bring her up a bit. And what's funny about this is Tianlang. I don't know, I don't have him built, but Tianlang has Volt Reaction. It literally does the same thing as Volt Resonance. The only difference is it is called Volt Reaction, not Volt Resonance. So if your Volt team has Tianlang plus another non-Nemesis weapon, then you are triggering Volt Reaction, which is not able to trigger the 30% extra Volt damage. So that's really the dev's attempt to try to stop power creeping. Now in global, this might be different because you guys don't have Baiyue, so things might change. But in CN, that's how it works. So now if I change my weapon set to Volt, oh sorry, I already changed it. And now I deploy the field. You can see the field turns to the Volt field, right? So now if I just keep dashing. Okay, you see, right, 65%. So you can pretty much, I mean, if you're lucky, you can just keep dashing, but you still can get unlucky sometimes where all the dodge bar depletes. So that's what Lin does for the Volt team. Now for the Ice team, pretty straightforward. If the target within the field takes 10 times ice damage, right? So if you have to do ice damage 10 times, then the target enters a frostbite state, which just makes the mobs take 22% more ice damage. Now, this is what I mean by Volt gets a significant upgrade here compared to ice. For Volt, all you need to do is triggering that Volt resonance, and then there's like no CD whatsoever. You just do straight up more 30% Volt damage, where here you have to first do ice damage 10 times, then the target enters a frostbite state. And then with all that thing done, you only do 22% more compared to like 30% in Volt. That's not to say like Volt has more boost, right, for your dodge attack. So the Volt team here, the dev is really trying to make the old Volt team on par with other element, and this is what we talk. This is what I'm talking about. So my ice team is the most scuffed team. I will be pulling for Saki's further upgrades, and also I will be pulling Alice. The only thing is I didn't pull Frick because back in 1.0 Frick is just like back in 1.0 in CN, there's basically only one team that is Nemesis plus Baiyuekui. So I didn't pull Frick. And I don't think I will be pulling her because pretty much Alice will replace Tsubasa, and I will be fine with just Saki, Alice, and Lin. But nevertheless, I can show what, right? If I deploy the field, you can see the field now changed to ice damage. If I think that's more than enough. So basically, because Saki attacks very fast, you do see, I do believe you already proc 10 times frost damage, so you will be able to trigger the damage buff here. And last but not least, the physical team. What Lin does for the physical team is when you are protected by your shield, then every second you do like a AoE splash damage. I think it's like I say here, it's 150% attack. So that helps with the the physical team, because that's like an additional multiplier, right? Because the physical team does need a little bit of help. So without Lin's passive here, you will do significantly less damage, especially AoE wise. So now if I swap to physical gear and physical weapon, if I put down the field, now I'm gonna, so I need to generate shield first, and now I'm just AFK. You see, in addition to the aberration attack, you also see the physical damage that is popping up like every second. So this here, adds a lot more physical damage to the physical team. But the only thing is you do need to be protected by your shield, which you will be able to do with Lyra, because every time you use every time you use a skill, you will be able to generate a shield. In addition, Lyra turns her overheal to shield. So if I just keep punching here, and you can see, because I'm full HP and I'm healing, and that turns to the overheal turns to shield. So you will be having shield pretty much all the time. So that off-field taking damage here really helps with the physical team. Now, Lin also actually buff if you have like a mix setup. So let's say if you don't have, like for example, let me. So if you don't have two elements of the same element, sorry, if you don't have two weapons on the same element, Lin's field is just gonna buff your all attack by 15%. I think this is not used that much. The only thing I knew is I think there's a setup where you use Annabella, and then it has to be the gas module that doesn't rely on burning. Because it doesn't rely on burning, then your lens fire passive, which increases burning duration, is not gonna help a lot. So I do see a CN content creator use like a like this setup. So Annabella, Tsubasa, and Lin. So excuse me. So in this case, you can see now I have 21k fire attack. But then if I use my field, within this field, you can see my fire attack increases to like, 28k. So yeah, that's like the only case where, as far as I know, where you would use this balance passive. But other than that, you pretty much stick with your 4 elemental passive here. And finally, I like to talk about Lin's chip. Now, I do understand that chip is more than like a whale or a shark territory, but if there's one chipset in this game as a free-to-play, uh, so what I mean is, if as a free-to-play, if you have to pull one set of limited chip, it's gonna be Lin's chip, because Lin's chip buff is universal. So the 2 piece is every time you land attack, it gives you a attack buff that can stack out to 5 stacks, right? And once you stack it, it lasts for 18 seconds. So this will work completely off field. The 4 piece bonus is basically when you are within this field and when you are moving, right? You will get the damage percent buff here. Now, when you're moving, you don't need to be on Lin's weapon. So you can see I'm now on Annabella's weapon, and then I'm moving. So you can see that buff getting refreshed. So this damage buff, just like the 2 piece bonus, it works completely off field and then lasts for 15 seconds. So what's good about this is it gives all attack percent and all damage percent boost, rather than, say, for example, Ruby's chip. It only gives fire attack and fire damage. And for example, Lyra gives like physical damage percent buff, right? And Lin's chip, like I said, it gives buff to every single element, and that is why, like I said, if there's one chipset that is worth pulling for free to play, it's gonna be Lin's chipset, and especially because Lin herself works in every single element team, right? So it really helps a lot if you can pull both the weapon and her chip. Finally, I'd like to talk about her constellation or advancements. Now, Lin is a character that is fully functional at A0, but every single advancement makes her better. You can stop at any advancement depending on how much you can afford. But I want to quickly go over the advancement. So the A1 is basically it reduced the spawn time of the flower, because normally it takes 0.8 second to spawn a flower. So A1 reduces that CD to 0.5 second, so that you're spawning the flowers more frequently, so you just deal more damage. And also, if there is flower exploding, then the next flower will do more damage when it explodes. So just basically you do more damage. Now A3 is a big spike, because it increases your duration from 15 seconds to 20 seconds. So that helps a lot. And also, it reduced the CD further down to 0.3 seconds. So now with A3, you're spawning a flower every 0.3 second rather than 0.5 second. So just more damage, basically. And also, the flower will now attach to the enemy rather than spawning close to them. So what does this mean is, so let's say the mob is pretty mobile, so it moves a lot. And if the flower can stick to the mob, then it doesn't matter where the mob is, as long as the mob is within the field. So it's just a bit of a quality of life improvement. Um, Now A5 is just that it every second you gain 30 charge points, so it makes your weapon charge faster. Good to have, but like not. Uh, it's a nice feature, but the thing is, currently in CN, there's not that many weapon discharge that is worth using. In fact, when you use weapon discharge, uh, you actually lose DPS because the weapon discharge animation is so long. And then so A5 is like good to have, but nothing significant. And her Ace 6 is like her ultimate form because now you can have two field deploy. Now, when you deploy two field, your damage boost will not get doubled. But deploying two field means you spawn two flowers, right? Two flowers rather than one set of flowers. So basically, you're doubling your off-field DPS. And in addition, uh, the general damage buff get increased from 10% to 15%. Uh, so yeah, with her A6, you're just doubling your off-field DPS. So that's like a significant power spike. So if you must ask which advancement to stop, I would say like for free to play or a low spender, then you can stop at like A1. For a shark or mid spender like me, I stop at A3. Now, unless if you don't want to invest in other element, then you could go for her A6. I think that is worse. But before you do that, make sure you get the chip set because, like I said, it is a universal chipset that works for every single element team. That will be everything. Thank you guys for watching. Bye bye.